Welcome back to New Amsterdam, the podcast for creatives. It's your host, Flobo Boyce, and I'm in the mayor's office being joined by someone which, before we went on air, we're talking about candy bars. This lady here is one of my bestest friends, so much I don't call her a friend at all. She's my family, she's my prima, and the last time she was here, episode 53, was the most downloaded episode of New Amsterdam Radio. Please, once again, welcome Lizzie Cologne. How you doing?
Woohoo! I'm so happy to be back. This is like one of my favorite shows to be part of. And fun fact, it was my favorite podcast to listen to this year on Spotify. Yep,
Yeah.
that was you.
Thank you so much. I mean, the show had so much growth. I was like, what? 12 countries tuning in? I was so excited. Man.
Wow.
I know, man. Those analytic things from Spotify are pretty trippy.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
So back to what we were saying before. Snickers is your favorite candy bar? I can't accept this. I think you have to have like another one that's like funkier. I don't know. I just feel like it's just every person's choice.
Snickers or something. Yeah, I don't know. Snickers has just always been my favorite. I like Hershey's too. Hershey's cookies and cream. Now
Okay.
that's good too.
That's
I like to
not
switch it up. I don't always just go to the aisle and be like, I'm gonna get a Snickers right away. It's like, what am I in the mood for? And then it might be a cookies and cream Hershey's that day, or it might be a Snickers. You just never know.
I am weird in that my favorite candy bars are Three Musketeers and Hershey Symphony. Those are the two I'll get all the time.
I've never heard of Hershey Symphony.
Well, they sell right next to each other, so you know this Hershey's dark, right? And and then Hershey has like milk chocolate, and then like Symphony has more milk than milk chocolate. It's like super light. It's like their lightest chocolate bar they have.
I'll probably
It comes in
enjoy that one.
a tan package because it definitely looks like something an old person would eat. Anyway, yes, welcome back to the Outside Radio. Last time you were on the show, you were discussing about going forward and launching your own content expression. It wasn't a channel quite yet. It was just making your own content. But I can say with beaming with pride that you have your own digital network. Walk me through this. What's it feel like? What's the name of it? And your experiences having it.
That's why I was so excited to be back to talk to you about this, because the last time I was on this show, I literally had no idea what I was doing. I was still in that phase where, yes, I need to create my own content, but can I really do it? I was second guessing myself. It was little things like, what do I even call myself? How do I even start? That really stopped me from moving forward. So I was creating those obstacles for myself without really giving it a try. So then one day I was just like, you know what? Grab your phone and just hit record. And I did. And I just recorded and I just talked like if I was talking to someone. And I was pretty much just talking about my journey and how I got to where I am now. So it all started again with the name. I was so stuck on creating a name for some reason, because of course you have to brand yourself. Yeah, and then I reached out to none other than Flobito, and I was like, hey, you've been motivating me to do this, but I really don't know where to start. Like, can you help me out? I don't even know what to call myself. And you gave me a list, and then somewhere in that list, Café con Leslie came up.
Which was a joke, by the way. I was totally kidding.
Yeah, it was a joke. And fun fact, I used to work at Starbucks. I was a barista, and I loved working there. So I was like, that's brilliant. Like, conversations over coffee, like Café con Leslie. And I was like, yeah, like, that's what it's going to be called. And you're like, okay. I didn't, you were caught by surprise with how much I really liked the name.
Yeah, I was texting you, but I was definitely the same tone I was saying to myself, like, all right, whatever.
So that's kind of how it started. And then I just started coming up with, I'm like, I need like a subtitle. So then that's when I reached out to other friends and I just kind of started putting it together, and it was like create, celebrate, and caffeinate. So create content, celebrate life, and then getting caffeinated with coffee. And I was like, all right, like it's coming together. So then that's when I was motivated and I was like really excited to start, and I created my own logo myself. And this was the moment where I was growing as a content creator without knowing it. Like, I was figuring out how to create my own logo. I did it myself. I was figuring out how to upload a video and edit it on like iMovie, and I was figuring out how do I create an intro, because if you look at the first couple episodes, I didn't have an intro. I didn't really have much. So it's like slowly as I kept creating content, it's like these ideas kept coming to me, and it just started to get put together. So then my first episode, it was literally just me talking to people about why I'm creating my content now and what led me to this point. So it was just, and it caught me by surprise, honestly, how much support I got from everyone. People that I hadn't even talked to in a really long time, like old high school or people that I went to high school with and that I haven't spoken to in years. And then they're reaching out, they're commenting, and it made me feel really good to know, like, wow, I'm supported by a lot of people. Not only like is my family my biggest support system that we've talked about before, but it's like it caught me off guard how much people were really pushing for me to do this, because to me I put fear, and like fear stopped me from creating this channel. So I'm happy to say now that I overcame that fear and I'm creating this content that I never thought I would actually be doing.
The clip you're referencing on the Cafe Con Leslie YouTube channel goes, Cafe Con Leslie, first episode, why now? In all bold letters. And I remember the day that was launched because there were cross sections of your social network, which I hadn't seen because I've only known you a couple of years, but then it was kind of like, you could tell by the Facebook images, there were different ages, different parts of the country and the world. Were like, oh, Leslie, you're amazing. I'm like, instant star. I was a little jealous. It was a good jealous because I'm there like hacking away doing podcasts with 3 downloads. But it was so cool to see because there's so many people that have this idea, and then of that there are people that decide to go for it, and then of that there are people that decide, okay, I did it once, and then of that it's, okay, how can I improve on it? So the fact you got the point that, hey, look, man, 2 episodes in, it needs an intro, it needs a vibe, it needs kind of a flavor, like that to me is the real journey of doing this thing. And I'm so glad that you got to try it out, and how has the experience been so far with Cafe Con Leslie?
Well, it wasn't easy, let me tell you that. I think the biggest part or the biggest hurdle was trying to figure out this whole like electronics thing. I'm not very good with technology. I can figure out simple things like how to put a webcam together, but to like, for example, what streaming service do I use? What's going to be best for me? What can I understand better that if something goes wrong, I can fix it? So that was the part where I had to learn, okay, StreamYard's not for me, but Zoom is. I don't want to go live, but I can pre-record. So it's like figuring out these things like, okay, I've gone live, that didn't go well. So what can I do to kind of ease that anxiety that I have of that's stopping me from moving forward because I had technical difficulties in one episode. So after that, it was like kind of overcoming that. I was kind of stopping myself again. No, it went wrong this time. I don't know if I can do it again. But it was, again, just going for it. And I went for it. I did another episode, and again, you've always been part of my journey. It was with you because I was so afraid of what can go wrong. And I also learned to change my mentality while creating this content. And after obviously I kept making more videos and more videos, it started becoming easier, and it started becoming fun again. And that was the whole point of this, is that this industry and what I love doing, it's fun, so it doesn't feel like work. So I needed to remind myself, like, why am I doing this? Because it's what I love to do. So don't put so much pressure on yourself, because this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing and what you love to do. So it's kind of just like letting go and continue to just grow as a content creator, and just to give other people a platform as well. That was one of the main goals that I had, was that as content creators, when most of the time we're the ones doing the interview, but we don't really get to tell our side of the story. Where did we come from? Or how did we grow up? And I feel like those are the conversations where people can really connect with us. And that became the point of Cafe Con Leslie. And slowly I was able to get, one of a regional Mexican artist to join me, and I interviewed him. And that was the first interview that I ever did all in Spanish. So it was a big moment for me, because in the back of my mind, I always knew, and it's something that I always talk about, is I'm very proud to be Mexican American. So how do I combine that in my channel? Because like you said, in different platforms like Instagram, I have, my friends, a couple of my family members, fans. Twitter, it's mostly like for, those people that have watched us from AfterBuzz. But then on Facebook, it's mostly my family from Mexico. who only speak Spanish. So it's like, how do I involve them in what I'm doing? How do I present this idea?
Yeah.
So I knew for a while that I wanted to create content in Spanish. So before that interview, only in Spanish, I had done a mixed interview, so like a Spanglish version with one of my good friends, Isaac Meisner, who was born in Mexico, came to the United States at 18 to study here. And he was a perfect person where when we had conversations, it was easy to go back and forth from English to Spanish. And
Right.
he always knew that I was so nervous about speaking Spanish because when you grow up here, it's different. You're obviously you learn because of your family, but then you forget because of school and little things like that. So to speak Spanish professionally is completely different than just having a conversation. So I asked him if he could, if we can do his interview in both Spanish and English, because it was just going to be an easier transition for me to go to do that first and then to do Spanish only. So, and it's just little things like grammar or, what word goes first, because in English it's different. So it's just little things like translating and making sure that I sounded professional, because this is still it's my channel, but I still want to present myself well, if that makes sense.
Oh, it
But
totally makes sense.
the journey has been good. I did take a little bit of a break because life happens, but recently now I'm covering Total Bellas, which is something that I missed. And I feel like last season we kind of left the fans hanging in the sense of like we just disappeared and we didn't really get to
Why
talk
would you
about,
disappear, Leslie?
well, you know why.
Tell the live viewers about the why you decided to make it happen on your channel.
Well,
You know why, Flobo.
yes, for those of you who don't know,
Uh,
I did start, my career after Buzz, and that was the platform where I really started to become a content creator, to be an entertainment host. And they decided to kind of shut down because of the virus, or we were going to go on a hiatus temporarily, but none of us were aware of it. So we just kind of left our fans without really letting them know what was going on. I kept getting messages, at least, like, hey, what's going on? Like, are you guys not going to do another episode? And fans were getting upset. And honestly, I felt bad because personally, I wouldn't do that. I would have at least sent out an announcement or let us do at least one more episode to be able to let our fans know, because we owe it to them. So we didn't get to talk about like Nikki Bella's engagement. That was huge for like the Total Bellas community.
I
Or
bet
things
it
like,
is.
yeah. I know you're not into reality TV,
Hey,
but
it's fine.
yeah, so we didn't really get to talk about these huge moments, and I knew for a while I need to talk about this. We need to talk about this new season because there's babies involved, there's marriage and drama and all things that people love when watching reality TV. So how do I get, the former host to work with me? And at first it was like, yeah, everyone was on board. And then slowly, as the date started to approach, it seemed like everyone was busy with their own life. So I did start to freak out a little bit, like, who's going to do a whole season with me? Who's really committed? And luckily, Emily May was able to join me, and she's such a nice person. There's really like no one, I can't think of anyone that's nicer than her. And
Right.
she was like, yeah, of course, like I already have you down for like the next 12 Fridays, because we don't know how many episodes there are, but it's just so fun to be doing what we used to love to do. So talk about
Right.
reality show. For some people, they would do it just to create content, but for me it was a show that I really loved to talk about. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it on my own channel now. Why not? And that's where we're at now.
Oh, you media mogul, you. So you mentioned a lot of things that I wanted this to pull from just a bit. You said that when you started off on your content creator journey, there was some technical issues or learning more about the
Hmm.
technical side of things that was a bit challenging. And now moving over to the Total Bellas edition, because of course,
Yeah.
you said there are difficulties of booking consistent hosts, consistent talent
Yeah.
on your content. Now I know these are two big like roadblocks for a lot of content creators. Who am I going to do my content with in case of ones that need a co-host, and the technical platform and questions? And I can't knock anyone who sees all of the things you can learn and go, that is way too much for me. I'm walking by.
Mhm.
But you said it yourself, you're not a technically savvy person, but you made it work. So like,
Yeah.
I know you pushed through, but I guess the question I have to ask is, what made you push through to say I'm going to do this or learn this platform or get this host to make this content work?
Um, that's a good question. I think just after doubting myself, but still hearing people's comments and saying, when are you going to put another episode? Or kind of seeing the fact that there were still people that believed in me more than I believed in myself. So it was
Mm-hmm.
kind of taking a step back and really changing my mindset. I think it was all my mindset when I was first starting off because I wasn't believing in myself when I do have potential to do this and I've seen it. So it was just more like ignore the what ifs and just go for it. So it was just a matter of, I don't know, just stop overthinking and just keep going. Because if you stop yourself and the more time that I let pass, like people are gonna forget about the channel. If I'm not consistent, then people are easily just gonna be like, oh, she only did one video, where is her channel? Or and that's
Right.
easy to do. You can doing this is it's a commitment. And I'm sure you have 10,000 shows that you do. So I don't know how you do
10,000. Stop spreading rumors.
But I mean, sometimes I do get overwhelmed with just one channel. I don't, or one show. I don't know how you do so many because it is commitment. So again, figuring out your schedule, and at the end of the day, it's like my purpose. So reminding myself of my purpose, and it's to be putting out content again and to doing what I love. So once, even if everyone told me like I can't do it with you, I would have still done it by myself because what's the point of me having this channel if I'm not going to create content, or if my content's going to be inconsistent, and which it has been. I'm not going to lie, life gets the best of us, and it did get to me a little bit. But again, I think for me, it's constantly reminding myself of like those goals, those dreams that I have, and creating content for me is something that makes me really happy. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like finding my happiness within my job,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it's a weird thing to want to become a content creator because
Mhm.
it's very easy to see the glamour of things. Like, well, yeah, I'll be famous. I'll be in celebrity boxing matches versus Nate Robinson. It's great. But it is a grind to it. There's like booking guests, even for shows I have weekly or even semi or frequently. Trying to
Mhm.
book guests has been the worst. So you mentioned that there's sometimes you gotta take a step away. We're now knowing more about the psychological strain it takes to be a content creator now.
Yeah.
YouTube really came into our focus over the last 10 years or so. But let me ask you, I mean, like, how did you deal with the pressures of creating and real life? What happens when they mix? How did you respond to all that?
Yeah. Well, as everyone is currently experiencing, we are living in a pandemic. So at first, it was kind of balancing. I was still working at Starbucks when I first started this, so I was constantly drained with having to deal with, customers or complaints because this was at the beginning of the coronavirus where everyone was very scared and on edge. So you would just see people complain about the little things. And after I finished my shift, it was a matter of like balancing out, I am tired like physically and mentally, but how do I find time to create my content? So at first it was hard because I was always constantly physically and mentally tired from my job that I had to keep working on because obviously we still have bills. Like the virus happened, but these bills didn't stop. So it did take me a little bit to kind of figure out a routine, a schedule to where on my days off, even if it's just one day, make time to create a video. And that's what happened at first. But I think one of the things that you did mention is when life gets to you, and it did get to me to the point where I wanted to move back to LA and I had to leave Starbucks and I took a job that I thought was going to be better for me, which ended up not being the right job. So it was like, where do I go from here? The industry is closed, and I constantly kept trying to apply for multiple jobs without really
Yeah.
realizing the reality that we're living in. Like, there's really no jobs for us right now, especially in the entertainment industry. So I did end up getting frustrated and I lost hope. So that's kind of where I stopped creating videos because, like, mentally, I wasn't here. I
Mm-hmm.
was, I had no motivation. Everything just kind of stopped because I went through the beginning of the year where everything seemed great. I got approved to be a red carpet host. I was going to be doing red carpets for the first time. I did one. I was going to go to WrestleMania, which is a dream that as a kid, you never imagine yourself even achieving, or like financially, my family was never able to afford like a WrestleMania ticket or for me to travel. So it was like, wow, I'm finally able to achieve that dream through my career and through my job, which is something I always wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So to have that taken away, and then for the industry to just stop, and then to kind of reevaluate, like, where do I go from here? And I know I'm not the only one that probably went through this, but when you deal with mental health issues, which is something that I have experienced and I'm currently still dealing with, it's harder. It's harder to kind of dig yourself out of that mentality where everything everything stops and you have zero motivation and you don't want to do anything, and you're just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna just cruise by and I'm just gonna work. And for me, it was always like, I'm just gonna work at Starbucks right now because everything kind of stopped, and I did lose that one, like that desire to create content, that desire to be in this industry, because I felt like everything was just not moving forward. But it was more of like building myself up again. If I don't create content or if I don't do anything that I feel like is productive, then I really like lose that motivation. So it's kind of figuring out more of a, I don't want to say routine because I'm learning to not be so focused on a routine,
Mm-hmm.
because I've always have been. So it's more of like finding a balance
Yeah.
between the reality of the situation and kind of what the situation that I create in my mind.
Yeah. 2020 being one that threw a curveball is a bit of an understatement, and everyone has their own snide jokes about that. Worst year
Mm-hmm.
ever, etc., etc. You did mention the prospect of hope, and I think a lot of us that do this, we work on something you can't really hold in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
We were having a little bit of a rough time with that, and there's times of despair. I think that's pretty normal. But you can answer this question as truthfully as you want. You can skip it if you want. On those low days, how did you maintain like the what was left of that shred of hope, or how did you maintain not doing anything self-destructive, just as you
Mm-hmm.
try to work yourself out through those times?
I think, well, when it comes to mental health, it's one of the things that, at least in my culture and something that I've grown up with, is that it doesn't really exist. It's something that's just in your head, that it's going to pass. So when I first started dealing with these issues, it was more of like looking at myself and knowing that I needed help. So I kind of had to step away from my family because that's where I was getting all the comments. They're like, it's just you, like it's just in your head, it's gonna pass. And I was like, no, there's something really wrong. And I started noticing the fact that I was getting anxiety attacks because I was in a really bad car accident. So that's kind of where I started realizing, like, okay, I'm really paranoid. I can't drive. This isn't normal. This isn't who I am. So it was kind of taking a step back and ignoring everyone, which is something that I normally, I love to be surrounded by my family. I always like to ask for their opinion, and that's kind of how I end up ultimately making my decisions. But this time it was more of like I kind of hid myself from everyone, or at least from the people that I knew weren't going to support me about like getting help in regards to like therapy, and which is again something that you don't really hear about. It's, you know, people, when you say therapy, especially growing up in like a Mexican household, it's like, like what is that? Nobody really goes to therapy, nobody really talks about it, or nobody believes in it. So it was, I just made the phone call myself, and I called my doctor and I was like, this is going on, something's really wrong. And I didn't tell my mom. I only told, I think, my two sisters, because I felt like they were the only ones that were really going to understand me and support me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a matter of just ignoring everyone and knowing that I needed help and making that phone call myself. So
Yeah.
it's just taking initiative. And I know it's sometimes hard for people who, especially if you're in depression. I've only dealt with like minor depression. I've dealt more with like anxiety. Um, but it's just a matter of like at least finding one person that you can rely on, that you can know that you can call. It doesn't matter in how you're feeling, whether you're something really good is happening or something really bad is happening, but they're always going to know exactly what to do. And that's, I've been lucky enough to have my sisters to go through that. But like recently I felt like I couldn't even go to my family because I didn't want to show that side of me.
Yeah.
I'm My personality is very big. I'm always really happy. Everyone knows like I'm like the light of the household. And my mom always says that because when I come home, it's super loud. I'm like, hey, everybody.
Leslie's in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I'm not like that, obviously it's a huge,
Right.
everyone notices. Everyone's like, what's wrong? Like, why are you like all energetic? Like, what's going on? So I ended up like, I went back home to San Diego and I ended up just like never being at my mom's house. I ended up never being home because I felt like I had to hide. And I could only be vulnerable when I was alone. But thank God I never like to do things alone. I
Yeah.
had my best friend Jackie there with me, and I like just called her one day crying. I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I feel so sad or like so low. And she was there to kind of pick me up and like take me out. And one of the things that I learned was that like the beach is my happy place. So going there, especially when I was so down, and it was just a matter of like, I think all the opportunities going away, you know, me moving, so all this change, us kind of like going through these big life changes. Like my mom lost her job, and that's where we kind of had like health insurance. So it's like, where am I going to get health insurance from? Because I've never had to really worry about this because we've always kind of we've been good. We've never
Yeah.
had to figure any of this out until like this virus hit, and it changed so much of my life that I necessarily wasn't prepared to deal with. Like, I guess it was those changes where you have to grow up, you have to
Yeah.
kind of figure out. So it's just honestly, it's been hard because I feel
Yeah.
like the beginning of the year where everyone was kind of feeling it, or at least in the middle of the year, it kind of hit me towards the end of the year, which was recently.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because like I'm in my mid 30s, even though I look incredibly younger than that.
Yes, you
Hey,
do.
I'm in my mid 30s, and everyone always tells me, your college days are the best days of your life, and
Hmm.
that could be, that's debatable. But I will say the hardest parts of my life were my junior year of high school because that was going into college. My
Hmm.
junior year of college of being asking what your plan was, and I would say ages 23 to about 26 because you get out in 22, right? And then you're kind of like, well, everyone has time to find their footing. That's the thing you see about TV shows. But after that year, it's like, well, what's the right path? Am I on the right path? Did I choose correctly? Where are my friends? What's my job? These are bills that never had to touch. And then in your case, at your age, you had the pandemic on top of that. So
Yeah.
you couldn't even like, oh, I'll just grab a job at, oh wait, it's closed. And you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so like there's no shame and acknowledging something is wrong, number one,
Yeah.
telling some people in your immediate family in case you do something destructive, two, and seeking professional help. So I
Yeah.
think the fact you did that and then now are sharing your story, I mean, I'm only one person, but I would commend the heck out of you because I feel like with me, my parents are very similar. They're West Indian, they're from the Caribbean, and every problem can be solved with either work or prayer. And if you have
Hmm.
an idea or a problem where they don't two fit in, they don't know what to do. I have not been fortunate enough to seek professional help, but I will not, poo poo anyone that does that. So I have
You're
to
right.
ask though, not and then you can be as forthcoming as you like. How is your journey going with that? Are you seeing improvements? Are you feeling better? Is it still? Are you still in the thick of it all?
Oh yeah, definitely. I would say my journey with mental health issues, I guess you can say, and it's something I've actually never talked about. And I know I wanted to talk about it with you because this is where I felt most comfortable.
Oh, thank you.
And I feel like people need to know this side of me because
Sure.
again, on screen you can see like, oh, it's Leslie. She's always happy. She's always excited. But then when I'm not creating content, I get messages like a fan who's always messaging me is Johan, who he's always like, "Hey, you didn't post a video. Is everything okay?" And I would have to be like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, like everything's fine. I'm just busy at work." But in reality, it's like no, I'm not okay, but I don't feel like I can say that.
Is there
And
pressure to not be okay or to tell someone you're not okay?
no, I just didn't know when was the right time to kind of talk about this side of me. So I
Mm-hmm.
really felt like after, because it's the end of the year, I wanted to talk about it now. And
Okay.
especially after living what we're currently like going through, maybe I can help someone.
Yeah.
So, and it's not something rare. Everyone's going through it, especially right now. So it's definitely something I wanted to talk about. And I want people to know that if I can help in any way, I'll be here. So, back to your question, it's been going really well. When I first started, my journey with anxiety and depression, I used to like just have anxiety attacks and literally just start crying for no reason. And I wouldn't know why. And not knowing is what kind of scared me the most. And because I know my body well enough, like I know when I'm starting to feel sick, I know if I don't sleep enough, I'm gonna get a headache, and if I don't eat well, then I'm gonna get a headache, or like just things like that. Like I know my body well enough to know what to do when if my head hurts, what to do if like now I don't know if my back or neck hurts. Okay, take a break. But to anxiety is something really you can't control.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was a matter of kind of figuring out like what triggers it. Okay, it was stress, and I was in college while this was all happening. So one of the things I realized was I'm not good with change. I'm not good with. That's why I was saying I really like routines, because it's constantly like I'm always on the go. I'm always on the go. I don't have time to really think about all these issues or anything else that's going on around me, because I'm on a schedule. I'm on a routine. And that's how it was when I was in school. So the hardest part, which you were mentioning, is once I got out of the routine of I'm not in college anymore. I can't
Yeah.
just work at Starbucks. I can't just focus on school. I'm not distracted anymore. And that's kind of where the reality, like, oh, you have to like really be an adult and figure out what you want to do.
Yeah.
Which was again, I took a year to kind of figure all that out, because I'm not good with change, and I I had to learn to adapt, and I had to learn, what I really wanted to do. And taking a year off, I had to learn that taking a year off is okay, because
Mm-hmm.
I thought that after college I was going to get a job in the industry, because it just seemed like I was ahead, or I already had experience. To learn that your experience is nothing to what people are requiring now. So
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of taking a step back and really letting go of these expectations that I had created for myself. Because when, like you said, I'm in a point in my life where all these responsibilities that I didn't necessarily have before are kind of coming now. And with the pandemic, it's kind of like everything's on hold. So it was a matter of like learning how to let go and just accept the fact that everyone's industry or everyone's job is kind of on hold. I'm not the only one, and it's okay to not be where you want to be right now. So with that, at first it was more of like learning to that if you're unhappy, it's okay to I don't like to use the word quit, but to kind of change your plans, because I
Mm-hmm.
did. I went through 2 jobs in the past 2 months, which is not like me. So, but it was a matter of like I grew in my mentality of those jobs were stressing me out to the point where I was anxious. I was starting to get depressed. So it was like, okay, take a step back and kind of see, is this where you want to be? Or how is this affecting your mental health? And it's like, it's okay if you let go of one job. It doesn't matter. Also, another thing, it doesn't matter what people are going to say. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter what your family is going to think about, oh, you're not working in your industry anymore. And it was just a matter of me understanding that this is my journey and that it's not going to happen overnight, especially right now. But
Right.
overall, I
Yeah.
think I've definitely grown in regards to like my mentality and learning how to deal with anxiety and depression, and learning how to kind of take a step back, especially right now, and breathe. Everyone like needs to just breathe
Yeah.
and just let go and find something that you enjoy. For me, it was like going back home and spending time with like my best friend or spending time with my family and kind of distracting yourself for one day. It's okay. And that's the way I kind of recharge to get through the rest of my week.
Yeah, a lot of people say this quote that if you work for yourself or create for yourself, sometimes you have the worst boss ever, and that we push ourselves into these incredibly like bad positions where we feel overworked and stuff. But if someone's listening right now, I know everyone's different. Everyone has their own journey and different access to professional mental health or the homeopathic equivalent of that. Like, what would be the first step they can take to evaluate the way they are or their mental health? It's like, how do you help them determine whether or not it's a bad day versus this is a problem, in your opinion?
Definitely once you kind of start like losing control where you can't go about your everyday life, where you can't go to work because you literally can't get up from bed. That's when I think obviously there's a lot of support groups. There's a lot, I'm sure there's phone calls out there, resources where you can find by simply literally just Googling mental health resources. There's local clinics, there's help anywhere right now. So all I have to say is please, if you feel like something's wrong and you at least want to talk to one person about it, to for me it was actually easier to talk to a stranger because they don't know
Yeah,
you. Nobody
exactly.
judges you. It's okay. You don't even have to tell anyone if you're ashamed of it, but at
Hmm.
least taking that step to really better yourself, especially in this situation where we can't even go outside to distract ourselves, which is kind of what I would do. I would use kind of the beach as my therapy. But just please, you'll know when something's wrong when you can't even go about your day. Or for me it was I couldn't even drive a car without thinking like someone was going to crash into me or something was going to happen, or like I couldn't just go about my day without breaking down and crying for no reason.
Yeah.
So there's little signs there you can Google. Everyone's different, to where you can kind of evaluate yourself and kind of see where you're, if this is something that a problem. I don't like to say problem either, but an
That's fine.
issue or a problem or um, I don't know how
I
to word
I'm with you because I've not done formal evaluations before, but when I was
it.
doing
Yeah.
comedy, my comedy professor, teacher, instructor, I don't know how professors work. I didn't get a good degree in stand up, but the person that taught me comedy, Adam Barnhart. Now I won't forget him. He had this thing called comedy therapy. So when you
Mhm.
would have an open mic, you had 10 minutes to get on stage and just say whatever happened the past week, and
Yeah.
then you'll sit down and then you do your bit. Now, I'm not saying that will replace going to a doctor. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But to your point, it was a lot easier to tell what was bothering you to a microphone, to strangers in this case. Because
Hmm.
like if family is bothering you and work is bothering you and like your significant other is bothering you at the same time, it's like who do I tell which side
Right.
to? And that becomes a whole bigger thing.
Yeah.
And you're right. It is cool to talk to a stranger, whether it's informal, or professional, depending on what you can afford or what's your access to say, here is what's going on wholesale. Let's work on it together.
Or even a friend. I always
Yeah.
like when this first happened, I always reached out to you, to like, I remember reaching out to like Ollie and Bryant and making sure everyone was okay, because you also have to remember when this first happened, the whole Black Lives Matter movement happened. So I had to reach out to people who were part of that community to make sure that they were okay too, because
Mm-hmm.
we've gone through so much this year. Not just that, like another president was elected as well, so it's like
Yeah.
how is everyone feeling, because I know a lot of people were anxious during that time. So even if you have one friend or just anyone, just reach out to one person, whether you have to vent. I always do it to you. I'm like, sorry, I have to vent today, but let me tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
And
That's
it
great.
just
Yeah.
helps like to just let it go. Or even one of the things that I always recommend to anyone is just write it down. If you
Yeah.
write what's going on down, you're kind of going to feel like this weight is lifted off of my chest. I actually put it on paper where like now I can just destroy it and
Do
I'm
you keep
done.
a journal, or is it like a write a piece of paper and like throw it away? Like, what's the?
Well, for me it was more of like I that didn't really help me. I always like to talk to at least a friend or someone that I knew me well enough. It worked once where during a therapy session, I was asked to do this. But for me, it was more like I need to talk to a human being about
Right.
what's going on. So whether like I just, call my sister or call my best friend and be like, hey, like I just did it the other day. I was texting her. I'm like, hey, I know you're probably working right now, but I don't feel good right now. Like this is what I feel, and I just like let it all out. And
Yeah.
it's just me thinking that I am talking to someone, but she didn't necessarily respond right away. But it was a matter of like I let it out. Now I
Yeah.
feel better.
And so with the lockdown, and everything, how do you let it out? Do you have phone meetings? Do you go out
Yeah.
to see your
Um,
friends?
well, even right now, like I haven't been able to see my family, which has been an adjustment because of the virus. They've been having to quarantine. So it's a matter of like I have to FaceTime at least like once a week to kind of feel that connection to make and to like just bond because we always like bring each other together and just have fun conversations about like random things. Like, and even my brother called me the other day and he's like, hey, are you gonna watch the new Selena series on Netflix? And it's just kind of like still reminding us we're still there. Yes, we're not in the same household, but that's always what makes me happy. So
Yeah.
FaceTime has worked a lot.
I got one more question for the road for you. Then
Yeah.
it's December 2020 as we record this.
Yeah.
2021 is over the horizon. I mean, with your knowledge of looking at goals and reevaluating, are you setting goals for yourself professionally next year? What do those look like? Are you just taking it day by day? What's the approach for 2021?
So I used to set goals, and now I'm gonna do the opposite, where I'm just gonna take it day by day. Because again, I always used to like to have a routine or had expectations that when I didn't meet, I was like beating myself up for it in the sense of like, why isn't it happening? So now it's more like taking it day by day, but also because my schedule has changed in the sense of like now I don't have an excuse of I have a lot of free time. I am now in quarantine like everyone was experiencing at the beginning of the pandemic, to where I was constantly out working at Starbucks and now things have changed for me. So it's like, how do I work on myself in regards to like, I need to wake up early still. I do want to incorporate like exercising at least because I've never really made that, I don't know, that push for it. I've never really
Nobody
tried.
makes a push for it. It
I
just kind of
know,
happens.
but I know like for like my health, it's gonna help me a lot. So it's a matter of just like, all right, whether it's 30 minutes and just getting out, going outside, walking my dogs around the block a million times, but at least get outside of
You sound
the
so
house.
pain saying that. Oh, 30 minutes, gonna walk with my dog.
No, because
Wow.
I think because for a while there's a lot of misconception. Again, it's like a cultural thing where you have to exercise to lose weight, or and that's always kind of been the reason that I've always kind of been surrounded by people are always doing it for that reason. And I don't like that because that's not like I want to do it to feel better, just
Yeah.
overall physically, not because of looks. It's not about
Right.
looks for me. It's about just like feeling better physically. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just a matter of like just making more of a push to kind of get out, especially because I'm noticing that I'm getting really comfortable with being inside the house. So I'm like,
It's great. I don't know what people talk about, but
yeah.
I'm an introvert, so I don't know.
Well, I guess I'm a balance of both, but it's just a matter of like creating more of like a routine in the sense of getting up, getting ready. It doesn't matter if no one's gonna see me, but at least if I look better, I feel better, and I've noticed that too. So yeah, it's just taking it day by day next year, enjoying every moment with whoever you're around because I always appreciated my family, but I think during this pandemic, with a lot of death that you're seeing, it kind of makes me appreciate everyone a little bit more, especially during the holidays right now that I wasn't able to be with my family, which was the hardest thing ever for me because I've never had to experience that, which I'm sure a lot of people are constantly do, but because that's really what makes me happy, it was really hard. So just everyone enjoy these moments that you have with your significant others, your friends, your family, because life is literally really short. And just enjoy every day and be grateful that you're alive because you just never know. And that's what I'm doing for 2021. I'm just going to be thankful that I'm alive, as cliche as it sounds. Still appreciate those who are supporting me and are around me. And also, one thing that I am going to leave in 2020 is I've kind of learned that I've still hung out with people that don't necessarily aren't growing with me, aren't motivating me, aren't good for me. So I'm kind of letting go of people in my past and people I need to let go of, and just really focus on that good support system, those friends that are really there for me. Because in 2020, I've lost a lot of friends. I've seen a lot of like the real side of people. So it's kind of just letting go of them, their loss, and moving forward with my life.
Living the best life. No, Leslie, thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, your perspective is definitely appreciated, especially
Thank
as
you.
we try to make sense of what's left of this year. Because everyone
Yeah.
had 2020 goals. I remember this time last year, like, yo, man, Cinco de Mayo is going to be on Tuesday. St. Patty's Day is going to be lit. Like it was. And then they got the biggest curveball of curveballs. But if someone is listening right now and they want to get on the content train, learn more about Cafe Con Lenzi, how do they do that?
Yeah, you can go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Leslie Colon. You can follow me on Instagram at Leslie Colon _. Also, one of the things that I'm working on currently is my website, which I will be up by the beginning of next year. So
What?
you can kind of see me put everything together in a new year, a new start. I know this is probably a different side of me that you've never really seen, more of a serious talk. But hey, I'm still here to have fun, so make sure you tune in to Cafe con Leslie as we talk about reality TV, reality drama, but also, I have great guests on there too.
How can you not be ready for a good time with that theme song? Oh, snap. It's dope. If you can get one guest book for a Cafe Come Leslie next year, what would it be? Like, who would it be? Just one. Go pick one. Bells don't count. There are two. One.
Wow, you
The
know
bells don't count. There are
that's
two.
my
One.
dream.
Yeah, forget that. They're busy. All right. So,
um, anyone like, does it have to be? Why are you putting me on the spot? The Bellas are literally my go-to.
that's why you can't pick them.
Someone different. I have to do someone outside of wrestling because I've always kind of stuck with wrestling. So I want to do something different. I do want to have like a Latin artist. I don't know, maybe a reggaeton artist that I can have on my channel next year, whether that's as small or not even small because they're all big right now. So just any reggaeton artist. I guess
Yeah.
my dream would be, my favorite boys, my boy band,
CNCO?
to have CNCO.
Oh, come
Remember
on.
them?
Yes, I
That's
did. It's
even
all over your
sick.
Insta stories. It's like,
It's all over my Insta stories because I'm literally obsessed with them. If I fangirl over someone and if I act like I'm 16 and I'm like living the dream, yes, it's over CNCO. If you guys don't know who they are, they're a Latin boy band who drive me crazy.
I'm saying this right now. If you're listening right now, put the good juju vibes out that CNCO stumbles across Cafe Con Leslie next year and they beg her to be on her show because she deserves it.
Yes.
I don't know what I would do for my show though. I'd be like, so I know someone who likes you a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
Okay. Yes, please, Leslie, as I said last time, come on back whenever. You're totally a fan
Thank
of the show. You
you.
have a high rise condo in the city of creatives.